Hey, everybody, and welcome to the... Wait a moment. What episode is this?
That's a good question. Let me check.
I think we're at episode 29.
Yeah, I think the last one was 28.
Well, we're going to seem really stupid if I say... Okay, I'm going to seem
I'm
really...
not going to actually, put this part in. No,
Oh,
we're at
come
32.
on. You've got to put this part in. You have to.
We're at, this will be episode...
This is what will make us different from the other podcasts. We don't cut nothing. We don't cut nothing. And so when we screw up, and people get to see the human side of us. The human, raw side of us.
What, that we can't even keep up with the number of our episodes?
Yes! I can't count past 28, apparently. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that this is...
This will be 32, number 32.
Okay, well, if we count all the ones we didn't get because the recorder fucked up, we technically probably be at like episode 40 or something by now, so it doesn't really matter.
That much.
Oh, yes, we have lost a lot of shows over the years.
We've lost about 2 shows, I'd say. 2 to 3.
Okay, anyway, I hope that this makes somebody chuckle, and I hope that Jason didn't cut it, because he understands that our audience needs to see us as human.
Can I just put this in post-show?
Okay, no, this is our introduction. So, I'm the host, I command it. Next time you say you don't care about being host, you remember this. So, episode 33? Last one was 32? Okay.
No, this is 32.
Oh, okay. This is episode 32. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 32nd episode of the Sonic Talk podcast. I am your host, Knuckles87, and Jason Berry is your lesser host for this day. Hello, Jason. Say hi.
Guten Tag.
Okay, we're not speaking Klingon here.
That's German.
I know it's German. I'm being a dumbass. God. I guess that makes you a smart aleck then. All right. Have you been Have I been keeping... Wait, this is the Ian Flynn questions. Down to the other part of the show notes. So...
You'll be hearing the Ian Flynn interview later on in this very episode.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that.
That we will be editing slightly. So, Sonic Dash is now an arcade game. Yes,
editing but not censoring anything. There's nothing we had to censor out, just to let you know.
Yeah. Well, aside from our cursing match with Ian Flynn when he stole my donuts. So, Sonic Dash is now an arcade game that gives out tickets. Interesting. I remember seeing that. It was like this gigantic screen. I assume you touch it to move him around.
Well, this one, he's got a giant D-pad looks like you punch on or something like that.
Ah.
You know what? Back in my day, we had arcade games first, and then we adapted them to home consoles. And now we're doing mobile games and adapting them into giant arcade games. It's crazy.
Dude, back in your day, you had to hunt woolly mammoths with a rock. Don't talk about your day. Your day is irrelevant. But your day didn't even know what a smartphone was. I don't even think you had the bricks when you were a kid. Yeah, those didn't come around.
I literally had a rotary phone in my kitchen.
Back in your day, mobile phones were these phones in bags. That's what they were, or in cars if you were really rich. My dad had one of those. So yeah, but I don't know. I don't care. If I ever see it, I'll probably play for 5 minutes just so I can talk about it on this show at some point.
Yeah, later on today I have to do a return to Fry's now. There's a place called Round 1 Arcade real close to there that I could just take down the freeway. It's about 20 minutes from my house. One of the best arcades in America, Japanese owned. They get the latest, greatest arcade games that are
Fry's is awesome.
They already have 5 Star Wars what the hell, battle pods arcade cabinets.
Fool. You lucky fool.
So the chances are, if Sonic Dash is anywhere out there, they might be at that arcade. I'll I'll check today and I'll give a report probably later.
But yeah, I'm not even gonna get to go to Fry's this year because I'm not going to E3 this year. Instead, I'm going to try to buy the original Sonic arcade game, Sega Sonic Arcade. Yeah, it's on eBay as we speak.
Yeah, when you get down to San Diego, bring that with you. You got some fun trying that out.
If I manage to get it, for all I know, it might go for $10,000. I'm not made of money. But Unseen 64.
Since you're talking about E3, let's bump up a question. That Sega pretty much all but confirmed that there's no new Sonic games at all at E3. I mean, we already knew they weren't going to attend.
That is mildly surprising. Only mildly now, because we've known for about a month now that Sega's not going to be there, which is why I'm not going to be there, because there's nothing to talk about.
There's a 25th anniversary, Sonic game for next year, I'm sure, and they better be working hard. I'd much rather have them working hard on that than coming out with another
they better have all
Sonic and the Black Knight this year or something,
They better have all hands on deck for that game. They better have the Lost World team and the Generations team working 18-hour work days, making sure this game doesn't suck, because Sonic Boom screwed the pooch for a lot of people. Now, personally, I just think it was blah, okay, mediocre, meh. Well, it didn't ruin my world like Sonic the Hedgehog did.
You can get through it quite easily. It's even with its glitches, it's not a hard game at all. It's not.
But at the same time,
we've covered that so much though.
All the goodwill built up by Sonic Generations and Colors is just gone in almost one fell swoop. Lost World lost some of it too.
Yeah.
But, I'm kind of happy that we're not getting a Sonic game this year, at least not one like that.
I think at the most minimal, there may be Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympics, because that's coming up in 2016 and usually comes out the year before. But other than that, I seriously doubt that we're going to see anything much new with Sonic, except for Sonic Runners still hasn't hit US, so we'll probably see that this year.
Yeah, Mario and Sonic might be at the Nintendo booth, because it was at the Nintendo booth last time.
Right.
So, I guess that makes sense, I guess.
Since we were speaking
I'll get to play at Comic-Con.
Since we were speaking of Rise of Lyric earlier, the YouTuber Unseen 64 has provided more details of Sonic Boom's development problems.
I have not watched it, so you please enlighten me.
He got to talk to some former Big Red Button developers, including one bigwig anonymously, and basically a lot of what came out is it was proven true that the first trailer that we saw, which Sega has now taken away from YouTube, was in fact, although they say it's in-engine and everything, it was a PC version of the game. It was running off of PC, obviously, and not the Wii U at all. Which is why you got some effects when they were running, like a rainbow effect streaming down from that obviously wasn't in the main game or anything. That was running off of PC hardware, not the Wii U. Although they cover their butts because it says it's in-engine content. It's what footage is still in development.
You know what? Why didn't they just release it for the PC too? Because
of that contract with the Nintendo. And that's the other thing that was mentioned, and that I guessed a long time ago. This was meant originally for next-gen systems. And when that contract came out, they had to, because that's why it was also on CryEngine, they had to take the CryEngine and quickly, they said it was mostly finished, but then when that contract came out, they quickly had to make a port for Wii U, and that became the only version of the game. And they said it was near impossible to port that game down, because it's obviously a down port, it's not an up port.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're wrong. The developer was just lazy. That's the real problem with
right.
Everything. They were just lazy. Of course, that's a callback to an argument from one of our guests in a previous show. Laziness.
What I wanted to also mention is that people were saying, well, if this game had more development time, it still wouldn't be any good because of the design problems. And I'm like, you got to think when you're getting your game cut down, you'd have to also cut down some gameplay elements to get that to run. And so this would have been a much better game, I think, on next gen systems. Like when you see out to the mining area or the village where it's completely abandoned of any people, you know that thing was originally going to be populated with villagers that are now gone. And
I have not been following Sonic's news too much, but I have been following Project Cars, and that is essentially a next-gen game that they have been struggling to port down to Wii U, and essentially what they've ended up with is a game that runs at 720p and 23 frames per second. And this was another game that was essentially optimized for the PC and then ported down to consoles. And because they're not Sega, and this is not a Sonic game with an exclusive contract, it's probably not going to get a Wii U port, because the Wii U port would be shit unless it was significantly reworked.
Okay.
Which is pretty much what's going on here.
But one thing I forgot to mention is that it looks like from the rumors are pretty strong that there are Sonic Boom, at least mobile games, coming down the works.
Well, of course, you gotta have your mobile games.
Okay, I can't find it, but one developer had it credited as a Sonic Boom mobile game for one of the things he was working on, one of the developers at Sega, and I guess he put that information private after it was announced later on. So, it looks like we're going to get at least Sonic Boom mobile, which, hey, might not be too bad. I mean, Sonic Dash is good enough it's got its own arcade game now, and Sonic Runners can be a lot of fun when you can get it to work on your system, although the problem with having it on those Android ones is right now, if you're kind of like importing the thing, you'd have to re-download it. I just finally stopped. I haven't even played that game in like over a month.
Also, Android's a piece of crap. Apple rocks. Sorry, Android fanboys, but you're wrong. I'm going to piss off a lot of people today.
While we're doing more Sonic Boom news, Sonic Boom is wrapped up for this season with episode 26. It's now on summer hiatus in the US, but it's starting up on June 1st in the UK, I guess weekdays 3 times a day. I think it's showing the same 3 episodes 3 times a day is the thing. But at least they're not having to force to be getting up at 7 a.m. to watch it on Saturday mornings.
Or for those of us who have TiVos or a cable subscription, we just either record it or watch it on the computer, which is what I've been doing.
Well, I've been doing it legally through CartoonNetwork.com and my satellite service provider. I just enter that. So,
Same thing except Comcast. But I've actually... Okay, I have to come clean. I have not been following Sonic too much these last few months, and that includes Sonic Boom. I've said on the show repeatedly I have not followed the comics for the last 2 years, so that changed drastically in the last few days, which we'll get into later. So, Jason, I can't really talk about the Sonic Boom season, so... Well, I can, but you can talk about it more thoroughly. What did you think of the Sonic Boom's first season?
I think it does seem real formulaic, especially if you binge watch it, like episode after episode, I guess, which you've been doing to catch up.
No, I have not been catching up.
It's hit and miss. There are some great episodes that have some similarity to it. It's funny. There's an offset to it. If it's got more of a simple story, then it often comedy can be hilarious on it. Like Can an Evil Genius Crash on the Couch for a few weeks is a pretty simple story, but it's got a great amount of humor. But on the opposite spectrum, if it has a compelling story or better writing narrative to it, often it'll be less funny. Like I think Into the Wilderness was well written, and as well as Dr. Eggman's Tomato Sauce, because the plot twist on the tomato sauce is pretty good.
I must have missed both of those.
I'd recommend Eggman's Tomato Sauce, because that had a really good plot twist to it.
Unfortunately, that one's not up on CartoonNetwork.com right now, so I'm going to have to watch it illegally.
Well, you know what? Pretty much everybody watches on YouTube. Cartoon Network doesn't seem to care, because they yank, if it's a regular show or or Adventure Time or any of their others that end up on YouTube, they yank them right off. Boom always stays up. There's like 1 million people hosting Boom cartoons.
That's because they don't really care about it.
Yeah, they just don't seem to care. It's sad because it's a ratings winner for them. But yeah,
that's probably one of the reasons why they don't care.
Yeah, Eggman's Tomato Sauce has a pretty good story to it with a good twist, but it's not a hilarious episode. But it's still well written.
One that I liked was go on.
Like I said, it's a little less adventurous and action based compared to even Adventures of Sonic, where they're world traveling. But that's because of the case of it being a CGI show. They have to, they're limited to how much they can show as far as backgrounds and characters and that. Because each model they create can be quite expensive to create as it is. So that's why it's kind of limited in scope that way, but they can still manage to tell some great stories.
Hopefully that'll be changing in future seasons. But I rather like the season finale, which was Eggman swearing off technology for some reason, and instead he had his robot.
He actually agreed with Sticks for once,
dragging him around in his flightless egg pod. He was tilling the land and growing, what was that plant? I forgot.
He goes, if I don't plant these sorghum seeds or whatever, there won't be any sorghum cakes come winter.
Yeah,
his cheeks churning butter, and then he's washing his clothes in the scrub thing, that he's finally going, there's got to be a better way. Somebody's got to invent something better than this.
Even in the end,
he's like high technology,
And even in the end, he was still churning that butter.
Yeah, I do like that he finally stopped and went back when Orbot and Cubot ended up turning off, and he couldn't use them anymore. It shows that even though he insults them all the time, he does rely about them.
No, it's not that he can't. Oh, wait, rely?
He did. On the episode Dude, Where's My Eggman, he did end up throwing a surprise party for him. That's why he was missing the whole time.
I don't remember that one very well, but it sounds vaguely familiar. Oh yeah, they were looking everywhere for him.
Yeah, that's the episode with Knuckles Fantasy where he goes like Dragon Ball Z on the Eggman, and then the girls are all over him, and then he finally just flies away and becomes governor.
Anyway, we kind of went off the show notes a bit, which I don't mind, but, wait, did I show notes? Uh-oh. Oh, I went off the show notes to look at sorghum. Okay, so we're just going to keep the Sonic Boom talk going. It sold 620,000 copies worldwide on both consoles. So it probably may have made money, I guess.
No, I doubt that. That's not much at all.
I mean,
and
okay.
That's 3DS. That's two systems, 3DS and Wii, and plus they're completely different developers. It's like two different games that count as one. And it said on it for both systems. Sonic Boom on both. I should have written that better. Sonic Boom on both consoles only sold 620,000 copies.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and probably more on the 3DS than Wii U.
I guess the Wii U version probably didn't make any money, but the 3DS games tend to have a pretty low budget, and so they can sell like 100,000 copies worldwide and make a profit. That's what Atlas does. I'm
sure it did better
all the time. So yeah, but this is, I think, the first Sonic game that has really done this badly, at least since Sonic 2006.
They said it was the lowest sales for any major Sonic game.
Yeah. Like, I think even Sonic 06...
Sonic 06 actually sold fairly well. It sold over 1 million copies.
I was going to say it passed 1 million units. But that was across 2 platforms and worldwide, so...
Yeah, despite all of its errors, it actually did well. I kind of wish it would have come on PC, because I know people would mod the heck out of that till the point where it would be actually playable.
I think I'm just happy with Sonic Generations on PC. I don't need that piece of crap on there.
Yeah, on Sonic Generations on the PC, you can mod it so you can play as a penis and testicles running around.
Oh my god.
Somebody actually made that model.
So, regarding
Right now,
Sonic...
I'm just playing as Boom Sonic and Unleashed levels.
So, we pretty much already covered this, but the reason why Sonic Boom is airing so much in the UK is because Sonic has always done really well in the United Kingdom for some reason. That's kind of been his stronghold, even in his darkest moments.
Yeah, but it's funny that they delayed it till this long before starting up Sonic Boom, but I noticed that Sonic Boom has started up late in a lot of territories compared to the US.
Even France, I believe.
No. France, it started the exact same time as we did, and France still has episodes going. Chez Amy was going to be the next episode before it got delayed till fall, but in France, it's already aired. There's one called Blue with Envy, where Sonic meets a green, beaver guy who becomes his rival for the other friend's attention.
Dude, spoilers! You're spoiling the next season for me.
Alright.
And
there's a Mayor Knuckles episode as well.
Oh God, have we gotten the episode where where Eggman took Sonic to court?
Yeah, you haven't seen that one?
I have not seen that one. There's
one,
like a bunch of episodes in the middle that I missed.
I think it's episode 20. It's funny, but I think it's a little too silly for my taste. I think it goes over the top on its silliness.
It was one of the first episode concepts that we heard about. It sounded pretty damn silly.
Yeah, Knuckles becomes his lawyer in that one because Sonic considers the whole trial a joke, so he goes ahead and lets Knuckles be his lawyer.
Wow.
Which is just hilarious.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely would watch that episode. It's funny, but I think for my personal taste, it goes a little too silly on it.
Wow. Too silly for you, huh?
Yeah. Although I dig his, at the beginning of the episode, he has this moth mech that he flies around with it. I like the detail on that.
So looking at the first season as a whole, how would you compare it to the other Sonic shows?
It's actually... I can't decide whether this show or Sad-Am is my favorite. I mean, even the worst written Sonic Boom episode has at least one good laugh for me, which I really like. It's basically Adventures of Sonic if it was funny.
Hey, Adventures of Sonic is funny in its own way.
It's funny if you're 10 years old, for the most part.
For your information, I was 10 years old when I saw it, and I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I don't think Adventures of Sonic is bad per se, but I think it's not that humorous.
Bad until we started talking about writing.
The only bright spots are Dr. Robotnik himself. That's the only bright spot for me on that show. The problem is I don't like Sonic and Tails in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Where on this show I like the whole cast. I like how the other thing besides I like, how Eggman is on that show, but I also like the camaraderie for the characters, and that they seem like tighter as friends in the Sonic Boom the cartoon than they do in the comic series itself, even. Or even in the games. Like, especially Knuckles and Sonic, they just goof around and they, play together a lot more often than in the games or in the comics, where they're more of a, mild, they have a friendship, but it's also a mild rivalry.
Okay, so that does it for all the show notes stuff. But now
there was one we missed. Sega has removed some of its mobile games off of iTunes and Android, including Sonic 4 episodes 1 and 2.
Actually, I heard that one never actually got removed.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it wasn't due to.
At least in the
they
Sega
said due to quality issues, but it's mainly because hardware evolves over time, and this is especially true with iOS, and that can actually cause compatibility issues with games as the hardware gets more powerful further on the line. Which is odd because it's not true of PC, but it's true of iOS and I guess Android.
So now, of course, we have an Ian Flynn interview in the next segment. But now,
Alex wants to go on a rant.
What do you mean going on a rant? What do you mean?
I'm just kidding.
No. Oh, right.
You wanted to talk about
the rant that I have not gone on yet. Okay, I was wondering, I talked a little too much in the Ian Flynn interview. I accidentally interrupted him once. I apologize. But yeah, I didn't remember going on a rant. But yes, you mean this rant, the rant that I could not go on when Ian Flynn was around.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Well, I'll build up to that, but especially since it's something that people have kind of heard before, but I just need to reiterate it. But so now, in preparation for the Ian Flynn interview, I have been trying to catch up on my Sonic comics, and miraculously, I am an extremely fast reader as it turns out, because I managed to get through about 2 years of comics in about 3 days. And it was quite an experience, because I got to enjoy all of these different story arcs back to back and see all of the and just see how everything changed and evolved up close, and how Ian Flynn slowly unveiled essentially a completely new continuity to us. And I like these comics are the best Sonic related thing that I have enjoyed in a very long time. These were really good comics. Like, yes, they certainly aren't all perfect. You know, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of the new Black Comet arc. I can't really articulate why. Just it didn't grab me quite as much as later arcs did. It may have just been the setting or the fact that we had a bunch of gun characters who kind of didn't really have much personality to get attached to. But we got some Sonic news. Okay, what Sonic news do we got?
I just checked on Sonic Stadium. The latest trailer for Yoshi's Woolly World came out, and it has full amiibo support where you put your amiibo in, and Yoshi will turn himself into Yoshi version of that character, and Sonic is one of the characters, so you could have a Sonic version of Yoshi in Yoshi's Woolly World.
Oh, neat. So Sonic gets to return the favor for the Yoshi cameo, huh?
Yeah.
Now we just need Sonic in a Zelda game.
So yeah, it's no wonder these amiibos are selling out so well, because unlike other
they're selling out because Nintendo isn't making any.
The other Toys to Life games like Skylanders and Infinity, you can only use usually those characters in that one game or that one franchise.
Yeah, one
and
franchise.
they're never forward compatible. Where with amiibos, they're just keep getting supported in a lot of other games, and you'll always be able to use your amiibo for something.
Well, let me tell you that the main problem with amiibo and why we can't buy it, it's not because they're selling extremely well. It's because Nintendo is not making any. Well,
that's not true. They actually profited this year because of the demand for amiibo, and I think the demand is far outstripping what the supply is.
I have been following supply numbers because I'm trying to get that freaking Martha amiibo, and the resupply stuff. And literally, if it's not like a Pokemon or a Mario or something, stores are getting two amiibo, and that's only if they are high inventory stores. Like the Lucina and Robin amiibo, if you did not pre-order those like I did, you are screwed. You are not getting them unless you beat up a lot of people to get to the front of that line.
Or you make stupid mistakes like me and pay $25 each for Sonic and Megaman amiibos, only to find them flooded on store shelves for $12 a piece later on.
See, that's why I wait.
I don't regret the King Dedede because I can't find him anywhere, but yeah, Sonic and Mega Man, I rushed too fast.
I have a picture that's going to make you cry. A picture of a Toys R Us filled to the brim with King Dededes, and apparently that is going to be getting a huge resupply.
Shut up!
But regardless, at least you did not spend $50 on a Martha amiibo, so hopefully that'll get decent resupply soon. And this is not an amiibo podcast, it's a Sonic podcast, so let's get back to the Sonic comics. I have been enjoying the Sonic comics quite a bit. I have very little to complain about, aside from the fact that it's a reboot. It's a clean, complete reboot with pretty much he spent one arc sort of transitioning from the old memories to the new memories. But since then, it's pretty much been, okay, every time they reference a past event, it's a game. So when they talk about Perfect Chaos, when they talk about the Shadow the Hedgehog's thing, they refer to a game. And that's pretty much because the comics are now essentially sort of a much improved version of the video game storyline with the Freedom Fighters thrown in. And I have to say, like, I hate reboots. I have said this repeatedly, but in case anyone does not remember, I hate comic book reboots. I stopped reading Spider-Man. I stopped reading the DC the DC comics when they rebooted and stopped giving me my characters.
He only watched Sonic Sam on the ABC in the 90s because he hated the reboot cartoon.
But yeah, but the comics, they're too good. You know, Ian Flynn has been able to do some really cool things with this reboot. He's introduced some really awesome characters like Eclipse and like Breezy's apparently not a new character, as I sort of found out in the interview. I had my suspicions.
One thing I forgot to ask is people in the forums have been very wondering if because in the Adventures of Sonic she was a robot, and here she seems more like she grew up and I think she's a flesh character. She grew up and became her own.
I guess she's more of a callback than an outright like. But there's a character.
There's a slightly controversial scene where she seems to be flirting with Neo Metal Sonic, but I see that. I see that as a.
She flirted with all three Metal Sonics. With the first one, with the first one from the Sonic 2 adaptation, she had her hands all over him. And then with the Metal Sonic, she was like the last Metal Sonic, because I forget what she did, but she did something that was kind of flirty. She seems to have a thing for Metal Sonic.
Well, I only noticed that during Neo Metal Sonic, and I thought that was more of this display of power, because Metal Sonic was being threatening to her and clawing her face with his hands, and she turns around and just caresses his hand against her face.
You gotta read.
And that was me. To me, that was less of her flirting than her showing a display of power as you can't scare me, you can't threaten me.
You got to read part two, the part 2 of Champions again. She was all over the Metal Sonic 2 prototype thingy-majiggy too. So I think she might just have a thing for robots. Which there are people who have things for robots. I'm aware of this, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. But
and that keeps the mystery of whether she's a robot or a living person, I guess.
True.
Although I think she is actually a living person because they show like images of her as a child. Yeah.
Covered in dirt in a box, but this is a science fiction. Lord knows where they may have gotten that. But yeah. So if you have not been reading the comics, I'd highly recommend you start. And I'd highly recommend that you even if you have always hated Archie Sonic because Princess Sally is not Sonic's waifu, Amy Rose is Sonic's waifu. Even if you hate over stupid stuff like that, just give it a shot. Because it has loads of callbacks to the games. It's essentially become the ultimate sort of video game Sonic comic adaptation. Now, what was that one criticism that people had? Damn it, you mentioned it to Ian Flynn. It was in my head until just a second ago.
That's they felt like it was coming too soon.
No, not that one. Okay, so you don't remember it anymore either. Darn.
The one thing I didn't bring up was
did bring up. But
there's one thing I didn't bring up that there's like one or two fans that are like hardcore on the SSMB forums are complaining about Sonic being too flirty with Amy lately and being kind of ignoring Sally. I'm like, I don't even want to talk about that.
I don't give a fuck. Anyway,
plus it's not really
the Sonic Unleashed adaptation. People are complaining about it not being not being accurate enough.
Yeah, which is kind of bull. I mean,
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yes,
accurate enough? No. When a storyline is only mediocre or only okay or just not that good, you know what you ought to do when you're adapting it to a new medium? You make it better. And that's what he's doing. He's actually making it better by incorporating more characters, by incorporating more lore, by making it more than simply Sonic running from one temple to another, running through a level, beating up Eggman, and getting a Chaos Emerald and sticking in a Gaia temple. No, there is a whole lot more to this story than there was to Unleash, and that is a really good thing, because Unleash's story on its own would have been freaking boring as a comic.
Yeah, but I think one of the major complaints was that, Sonic didn't get the name Chip, and he wasn't hanging out with Chip for a while. Like, what's the difference? And you know what? If you've read 272, that really reads like a Sonic Unleashed, very full-on adaptation, because now, basically Knuckles has handed off Chip to Sonic. Knuckles and Amy have gone off to find the rest of the Chaos Shards.
Pieces.
Huh?
Master Emerald pieces.
Yeah, Master Emerald Shards.
I wasn't trying to correct you. I was just finishing your sentence.
Yeah, Master Emerald Shards. You're right. I said Chaos Shards. I meant Master Emerald Shards.
No, I wasn't trying to correct you.
But yeah, and him and Antoine are fighting the Dark Gaia monsters.
Oh man, Antoine's
in Apotos, and they have one of the priests from Apotos there. So yeah, you can't tell me this isn't a good adaptation when they got all those characteristics in there. It's just. They're building. At the same time, this is the world adventure. They're building up Sonic's brand new world.
Yeah, and on top of that, like characters like Victorious they've actually been given more of a role in this than just being minor NPCs. Ian Flynn is adding depth to the story, and on top of that, whenever you go from one medium to another, especially when you go from a video game to pretty much anything else, you're going to have to change things because video game storylines have to be made in a way that allow you to play a video game. Whereas in a comic, that's a medium where you just sit and read. How fun is it going to be to just sit and read as Sonic runs through your stage from Sonic Unleashed? Watch a Let's Play for that, man. That's what they're for.
Yeah, let me add a question to that. When you're playing certain RPGs or stories with a lot of text, how often do you press that button to try to get that text to go as fast as possible to try to kind of skip through certain areas because you want to get to the meat of the game?
Well, that depends. If it's Persona 4 or Skies of Arcadia, you can go fuck yourself because I'm not skipping a word of text. No.
I know, but I mean,
get away from my controller. But yeah,
there's sometimes, especially in tutorials or that, where they're trying to tell you this story that's so minimal, so unimportant that you end up, skipping through it because you want to play the game itself. Yeah. Where here, you don't want to skip anything because your focus is on the story. Where, in video games, your focus is mainly on the game.
No. What we need to do
unless it's an RPG like Persona.
We need to just skip. We need to just skip through the comic until we get to the part where Sonic punches something, because that's the video game part. But, okay, now, for the record, something like Persona 4 is kind of the exception to that.
Yeah.
Because the anime, from what I've seen, is also quite good. But that sort of thing is really rare.
Or if you want
certainly Sonic is not one of those things. Definitely not Sonic Unleashed.
If you not want another Sonic Unleashed adaptation, you can play Puzzles and Dragons on the 3DS.
Apparently that's pretty much the same storyline. The world gets shattered and... what else was there?
Chunks of land get thrown up into the air as giant puzzle pieces. You have a little flying sprite who's like a baby dragon named Syrup who loves sweets. It's basically a kind of a lot rip off a Chip. Plus, it's the main story aspect is also a huge rip off of Pokemon. You wake up in the morning, your mom greets you and tells you how proud you are that you're going to be this dragon tamer or a lot like a Pokemon trainer. You go to this professor's house and pick from one of 3 eggs where one of your dragon monsters is going to evolve. And as you battle other like monsters, you end up collecting them and evolving them.
And so it's Pokemon and Sonic Unleashed.
It's Pokemon and Sonic Unleashed meets free-to-play style
puzzle.
Yeah, what do they call it? 3-item puzzle. Yeah, but match 3 puzzle is what I meant to say.
Now,
but it's a lot more in depth than a free-to-play game is. This is a $30 game. Plus, you get a Super Mario version of the same game, which just ditches almost most of the story entirely and just focuses on gameplay.
Now, I need to yell at you regarding Eclipse. I'm aware that...
yeah, we had an argument last night about Eclipse.
And you're wrong, of course, and I'm right.
Shadow is this...
First, I just want to explain who Eclipse is to the people who don't know who he is. On the surface, Eclipse should be an awful character. His design is really, really kind of fan-arty-ish. Even for Archie Sonic, but he is a creature designed by this last remnant of the black aliens, and he's designed to counteract Shadow, and so he's been given a mind of his own. He's been given a personality, and he sets out in Sonic Universe to bring Shadow over to their side, because Shadow is essentially his brother. You know, they are comrades as far as he's concerned, and because there are so few black aliens left, he does not want to have to kill one of his own kind without good reason. Now, unfortunately, Shadow was having none of that crap. And after a very long ordeal, Shadow killed the Black Death, who was kind of Black Doom's second in command, and then blew up the comet with a nuclear device, and pretty much killed off an entire race, aside from 4 eggs that managed to survive a crash landing on Angel Island. Now, what I love about Eclipse is that he isn't a straight-up villain. This guy is not like Finitavis or Dr. Eggman or Scourge. He's not all, "Grr, I'm gonna punch you in the face," or "I'm gonna nuke you from orbit with my gigantic robotic satellites," or whatever. No, he is a genuine 3-dimensional character who considers himself a hero of his own story. And yes, he does want to devour all life on the planet, but to him that's just his way of life. That's how he lives. That's the only way of life he's ever known. And that makes him and the fact that he's essentially this evil flesh-eating alien that is tasked with taking care of the last of his kind. And these last 4 aliens, which are, by the way, they are essentially sort of like black alien / wisp crossbreeds or something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of where they were.
And they do power him up.
Which is odd because you haven't seen the normal wisps in the Sonic comic yet, but just these evil versions.
Yeah, they've only mentioned Planet Wisp so far, though presumably we'll probably be getting a Sonic Colors adaptation at some point. But and essentially he's kind of tasked with these conflicting goals. He wants revenge on Shadow the Hedgehog, and he wants to feed the entire planet to himself and his children to make them strong and to gain revenge for the near extinction of his kind. But on the other hand, he cares very deeply for these alien creatures. He cares very, very deeply for his kind, and so we constantly see this very soft side of him. And essentially, he's the one villain where you don't want him to lose, but at the same time, he needs to lose because him winning involves killing everybody. Go on.
Well, anyway, see, that's the thing where it kind of bothers me is that he's this like kind of almost kind, caring character as a villain, where Shadow is a much more darker villain. You'd think, not villain, sorry, a dark
anti-hero.
As a dark anti-hero, you'd expect him to have a villain that would have to be at least, darker. And instead you have a villain who's fairly soft for Shadow.
Well, I wouldn't say he's soft for Shadow.
I mean,
I could say they're both complex characters.
He can be a dangerous threat, like when he was about to attack, Relic and Rouge, and Rouge and what's his name, Omega had to fight him off for quite a bit. He was pretty dangerous.
Omega and Rouge are so great in these comics. I mean, like Omega has always been really good with in these comics, but Rouge, since the reboot, I have grown to like her considerably, and this is coming from someone who really does kind of hate Rouge in the video games. But regardless, back to Eclipse. I don't really think that Eclipse really needs to be a threat. I don't really think that's really the point of his character. The point of him is not to be the scary boogeyman who, raises his hands and screams at you and eats your baby, so he would eat your baby. And so I don't need
for me, it's while he seems like a threat to others. For me, for Shadow himself, he seems kind of on the soft side.
Well, like, he is kind of weak for a guy who would defeat Shadow, though. They are actually more or less on equal.
Well, I can kind of see I see where you're coming from, because they're on opposite ends. Where Shadow is a dark hero, where Eclipse is kind of a light villain. He has his villainous killer side, but at the same time he has his very soft side.
Well, by and large, I prefer storylines that don't necessarily just have the hero faction and the villain faction. And yes, Sonic does do that for the most part. And the fact that what makes him a great foil for Shadow is that Shadow isn't a straight up good guy. He does have his dark edge. He is willing to do arguably villainous things for the greater good. Like in this pretty much this arc that we're talking about. I believe they call this the Dark Saga or something. Do you remember?
I forget, but
essentially Shadow is all okay. Knuckles, you can't protect your Master Emerald, so I'm going to take it. Drop your island into, and I don't care what happens to your island. It might float because the entire world is.
That was a great way to have that conflict, because there's.
Or it might crash down and explode. I don't care. Get on that plane. I'm taking your Master Emerald. We're taking someplace secure so Eclipse can't get to it. And taking the Master Emerald and dumping this entire island full of all this ancient, wondrous stuff and all these animals.
Yeah, which
biology. That's an evil thing to do. And this isn't even the first time he's done that since the reboot. Though at least with the Black Comet, he had a very good reason for it, because everything that comet was really going to mess up the planet. So it makes sense to me to have essentially, and I won't call him a villain.
But of course, Knuckles and Relic don't want that to happen, because that's Knuckles' home, and Relic, of course, explores.
Wow,
as an archaeologist, she explores the island and finds out a lot of its secrets.
That was the fight that I have been waiting so long for, Knuckles and Shadow, and it ended in a draw, of course, which I'm mostly happy about. And he's better than Shadow winning, anyway. But that was a really good fight. So that's what Eclipse makes a really good foil for that, because essentially he's this guy who's just trying to take care of his kids by doing something arguably, by doing something far more horrendous, but you feel for him. You feel for both of them, and so it's just. They're going to make, I think, a good antagonist-protagonist combination in the future. I can't wait for Eclipse to come back into the comic.
If I gotta say something though, you are kind of winning me over on that.
I know I'm winning you over because I'm right.
Even last night when you're talking, I could see your side of it. Even though I'm not a big fan of that character, I could see where you're coming from totally. And
these are just the kinds of villains that I prefer, and that's why Eclipse is one of my favorite characters in the new continuity. Now, that being said, I hate his design. But keep in mind, this is essentially a black arms guy who's meant to look kind of Mobian-ish. And so the black arms don't exactly have a great design to begin with. So all things considered, I don't think they did too badly with what they had to work with, but I mean, like, it's still kind of it's still kind of a bad design, you know, it's still kind of messy. It's not really as iconic or as clean as your canon Sonic character, or as the Freedom Fighters for that matter. But, I mean, like, that doesn't stop him from being a great character, in my opinion.
Right.
And he is the one that I think made the greatest impression on me. Followed by, in terms of original characters, followed by Relic. I don't like her name, but I liked everything else about her. It was just
I'll say that too. I get why they call her that, because it's, you know, she's an archaeologist. She looks for relics, but it makes her sound really old at the same time.
I was born to hunt old things. That's why my parents called me Relic. I was genetically engineered in a test tube. I know that's not her voice at all. She's more like...
No, she's very much like, more Mary Poppins-ish.
She's like British or something.
Kind of a British Nandy voice. Oh, bother.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know. I wasn't going to do that. But, yeah. But Relic, I enjoy Relic. I enjoy Fix-It. I enjoy Omega messing with Fix-It.
Oh, that part was just great, because
Omega is always spectacular whenever he's on panel.
He's this giant, like, death machine that's always about destruction, and he's meeting this tiny little robot that's just about fixing things. But of course, at the end, when Omega gets heavily damaged, then he actually needs Fix-It to.
And Fix-It, I will repair you if you promise to stop antagonizing me. Omega says, no promises.
Yeah. No.
It's just I love. I'm trying to think of a character in this comic that I don't like now, because I admit the reboot did clear out a lot of the riffraff. So let me think. Or
when he's Omega's blasting that huge hole in the wall, and then he's all Fix-It's all, what are you doing? It's all, I'm creating a door into being. You would not understand.
I mean, before that, of course, Omega was, I will produce a door, and then I will also produce a door into Eclipse.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Black Death didn't leave much of an impression, but again, like, he was kind of critical to Eclipse being empathetic, you know.
Kind of Black
Death was all, let's just kill everything. And Eclipse was all like, no, dude. Come on, Shadow's one of us. At least give me a chance to bring him over. Then he was all like, well, I told you so. Now you're going to have to save the last of our kind. But he didn't necessarily leave much of an impression, I guess. But that's really all I can think of. So, do you have a character you don't like who is not named Eclipse?
You mean one of the newer characters?
Well, pretty much anybody. Old, new. Like,
that's currently in the comic. God, I don't know. I like the fish people. Okay, I think they got a bit overused after a while.
Oh,
like they still show up from time to time.
The Fish King. Tell me.
Oh, I like the Fish King.
Was his voice Lemongrab to you? Because the moment, very first line, okay, this guy has the Lemongrab voice.
I like how he's a blowfish, so he blows up as soon as he gets real mad. He puffs out. Oh, not blowfish, a pufferfish.
And he lost loads of money in that Champions arc too.
Oh God, I love all the cameos in the Champions arc. It's you know what? That's my favorite arc I think of all time.
I totally get that, because like it had the right amount. It was one of those rare Ian Flynn arcs that manages to perfectly balance the drama with the humor and the action. Because all of it was there, all of it was great, and my God, the artist, damn it, I don't know her name yet. I will soon. Could you, Denise?
No, Diana Skelly.
Diane Skelly.
Yeah, she was
great. She's up there with Tracy Yardley for me.
Her when she does action, it's so kinetic. It comes to life. It's like animation, almost, which is I really love. And she was on Emerald Coast Emerald was it? Yeah, Emerald Coast
Emerald Coast
Comics.com
Comics.net.
forums.
Yeah.
She was or .net. She was one of the few forum posters we had. So, it's kind of cool that we got to know her before she became, big time into the Sonic
big time Sonic artist. Yeah. But there are all these little touches. Ian Flynn does go into them, but in the actual interview. But there was one that I just remember because it just made me pause and laugh.
This arc, she became my favorite artist, I think, on the book.
And it was like when Bean was doing this backflip. I forget, was it over Knack or into Knack's face or something? I forget, but like he was doing all these different poses, including one where he's just cross-legged and like wisely eating an apple.
Yeah.
Apple just comes out of nowhere and he's eating it. It's like, oh, God damn.
I just love the way it shows how what a threat he is, especially even when he doesn't take something seriously, because Knack's just giving him it his all. He's attacking him with everything he has, and finally he just shakes him and goes, "Fall down already!"
Okay.
He goes, "Okay." He just drops down.
But I mean, like I don't regret not reading the comics for so long, because if there's anything I love doing, it's binge reading. I would have preferred to do it over a week or so rather than a few days. But and I'm not quite done. I'm about 3 issues behind on Sonic Boom. I'm 1 issue behind in Sonic Universe. Okay. I'm going to mute my microphone. We're going to have to edit this part out at 57 minutes.
Okay.
Where was I?
We were talking about Champions and Diana Skelly and that. And you were talking about, I guess, cameos and stuff?
Oh, yeah, okay.
No, we were talking about Bean and Knack.
Yeah, Bean and Knack. So let's see. Damn it. They were fighting, and I think I think I was about to move on to a different thing connected to that, but I lost my train of thought. Honey.
Honey the cat.
Yes, Honey. I don't. That's not what I was going to talk about, but Honey. That character also left an impression on me. That was partially because I
guess her human character in Fighting Vipers is also a clothes designer, so it actually fits well.
And she also dresses all weirdly, so I guess that does work. And I believe that this character also has a virtual on analog, and so she has a Sonic analog, her original character, and then her virtual on analog. But this was another character that left an impression on me, partially because I had no idea where she stood. Because she seemed she kind of reminded me of Rouge, where she seemed kind of devious. She was a bit of a trickster, and like Toe Tails, look over that way, she says in a holographic arena. Tails deserved to lose that fight because he was dumb enough to look.
I love how outraged Cream got. She's like, "That's cheating!"
And man, neither Tails or Amy were letting it go when they lost, because they both kind of lost kind of crap.
I do like Tails' part because it became a kind of a redemption story. She does defeat Metal Sonic at the end, and he's the only one who manages to get a hit in on him.
Yeah.
So he ends up being the one defeating him. So it kind of made up for the fact that he lost so bad against Honey.
Of course, that was not being broadcast on live television to millions of people across the world. And of course, but it's made kind of clear towards the end that Honey, she is a good guy, she's a good gal, but she's just willing to cheat a little bit. She's willing to trick people a little bit.
Yeah, she's mainly about promoting her clothing line, but
yeah, but she's still on the right side of things. Like her body language after she left Breezy's office was like, wow.
Yeah, she realized
that
how
psychopath creeps me the heck out.
She realized, how greedy Breezy is, that she's just in things for herself.
Breezy's an awful person. Like, she is essentially a brand new character, I believe, because I don't think she was all that. I believe she is.
Well, she's this self-made millionaire kind of character, but she'll stab you in the back to get there.
And she even outsmarted Robotnik, which in this comic is not the easiest thing to do.
Right.
Because like Robotnik, he has some pretty interesting little plans in this series, and occasionally they work, and he nearly manages to kill everybody. Oh, you know, one character that I know left an impression on you was Thunderbolt.
Yeah, I like Thunderbolt quite a bit.
When I first saw her, I had no idea what the hell she was. It was like, what is she, a Pikachu?
Yeah, well, they kept her
like a little rat.
Yeah, she's a
Chinchilla.
A chinchilla, yeah, exactly. And they kept her her size kind of secret. You only saw her close up a lot of times. And then when you finally see her come out to attack, she's this tiny little Eggman looking chinchilla.
I thought she was gonna be like a jellyfish or
well,
something.
I like the idea that there's people on this planet who are 100% behind Eggman's cause.
And who are actually kind of competent. Because Thunderbolt had set up this trap where she was pretty much going to electrify the Freedom Fighters, and she would have won if not for the fact that Sonic suddenly has these crazy werewolf powers.
Pretty much, yeah.
Again, that's another thing that I think the comics do a lot better than the games.
I can see a little off panel with Thunderbolt and the Dave the Intern at a Eggman fan convention, trying to host it, and nobody shows up.
Yeah. So now, of course, one thing that I keep thinking about whenever I go back to read this comic, and that especially became clear to me as I was reading the first Knuckles story arc that had in Meet the Chaotix, and it was made clear that Sonic and the Chaotix had absolutely none of the history that they had in the comics. All that stuff is gone. And this, of course, leads me to the thing that we kind of mentioned earlier, which I guess is my rant, though I'm feeling kind of tired. And I've kind of done this rant before, and Jason's hungry, so I don't know how much of a rant I'm going to be able to give you guys. But essentially, what really pisses me off is that Ken Penders, when I was a kid, Ken Penders was kind of like one of the writers I looked up to. I thought, you know what? I love this guy's stuff. He's awesome. I want to write like him someday. Before one, he got pretty bad at what he did, and two, I kind of began to see the flaws in the stuff that I loved as I got older. But regardless, I had a lot of respect for him. But what Ken Penders has done, and I know you're going to have an answer for that. It's a stupid answer, in my opinion, but you do have an answer for it. But I will never understand why Ken Penders has essentially completely destroyed the only legacy he has ever managed to leave. Because that is essentially what he has done by going in there, grabbing all his characters, and saying, you can't use them anymore without my permission, which I thought I heard somewhere that Archie also had to pay a fee, but apparently I heard wrong. I
don't know the whole story on that.
No one really knows the whole story, but whatever the case, Archie's not touching his characters anymore. They're as far as I can tell, they're not really touching any characters that are not from either the cartoons or from Ian Flynn himself, which that is a huge shame. But going back to Ken Penders, think about what this guy is known for. He is known for this Lost Ones comic that he could never get published, a movie he could never get made, a really crappy web series with poor voice acting about, I forget what it was even about. It was some sort of, for the record, I'm a Democrat. It was like, for the record, I am a Democrat, but this was like some sort of really hard left liberal stuff that they were preaching. And I saw, I was like, wow, this is like that Birds. What was it? The Birdemic. This is like Birdemic bad. But he probably won't be lucky enough to get for it to be known like that. And it's just he wrote for some Star Trek books. He wrote for a few things, but the only thing that he managed to consistently get hired for, stick with, and build something was the Sonic comic. And you know what happened after he left? The guy who took over for him, he continued to build on what he left. He continued to give his characters new life in a continuity in a comic book that was selling relatively well.
And you have to consider this also, that before Ian Flynn, Ken Penders wasn't the only writer. They had several. Carl Bowles.
Oh yeah, they had loads
Mike
of
Gallagher. They had several writers that were constantly on a loop. But after Ian Flynn took over, Ian Flynn was pretty much the only writer on that book and the other Sonic spin-off books. And he's been that way for 10 years, except for what?
Aside from Tracy Yarley, and it's 9 years.
Yeah, Tracy Yarley does it on occasion, and Joe Edkin was the original writer on Sonic X, which is how it became kind of a... Joe Edkin came from like Scooby-Doo and other doing other writings. That's how Sonic X, which is normally an anime style, became more of a comedy.
They've had some other writers on the comic lately, but they've been only doing backups.
Yeah, and Sonic Boom gets an occasional guest writer, too.
I have not been reading that. I will soon after we get off of this. But, so all Ken Penders has really successfully done is destroy his legacy, destroy a comic that he spent 10 years working on, and now what's he got? I assume he's got royalties for reprints, which I approve of that. I think that's a standard practice in comic books. And he's got all these characters that he has yet to do anything with.
Well, I can understand why he did it. A lot of comic creators feel that they get kind of screwed over as far as...
Okay. Well, I'm not arguing about royalties.
Those characters get profited, as far as royalties and I don't even think like the Rocket Raccoon creator got any kind of compensation for Rocket Raccoon being in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Rocket Raccoon has his own standalone comic book series and was one of the most popular aspects of a billion-dollar hit movie. Ken Penders, most of his characters are Knuckles clones. They would be nothing without this character that he does not own.
That's true, and that's the biggest hypocrisy of this is, in order for his new book to work, he's trying to put new Knuckles into it, and it's instead of calling him the Guardian, he's the Praetorian. Although
wait, is it really Praetorian?
If that's what they call him, as a Praetorian.
Okay, I have a question. Wasn't Praetorian used in the Sonic Chronicles game?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm looking that up real quick, but go on.
Yeah, and then he's actually, not only does it look like the Knuckles from Knuckles 25 years later, which he's claiming is his because it was his story, but that's kind of a whole another argument. Like, I'm one of those people who considers Superboy to just be Superman as a young child, and I don't think the creators of Superboy per se deserve as much credit as they do. Like, I know they came up with like John and Martha Kent; they deserve credit for that, and Smallville and all that other stuff. But Superboy himself is just Superman as a boy. But whatever.
He's little Superman, just like evil Sonic.
He's young Superman.
Sonic with freaking sunglasses and an asshole personality that Ian Flynn did a much better job in fleshing out. That's what people remember. They don't remember freaking evil Sonic with the goddamn sunglasses.
I still don't think he
remember Scourge.
The rights to Robo Robotnik or Evil Sonic, because they're basically a part of a character that's already created. I mean, I can understand why he wants to keep the characters he's created, like Julie Sue and all those others, because even though they're spin-offs of Knuckles, there's still something he created for that comic.
There was something.
But the problem is, he did not create Knuckles, so it drives me nuts that he keeps trying to use Knuckles into this new series.
Yeah, the main problem is that all these characters were designed to support a character he does not own. And so he has essentially destroyed his legacy and an entire comic book to write this other comic that he has yet to do that has really crappy art. I mean, really almost objectively bad art involving characters who were designed around a character he doesn't own. I don't know, like, how is he going to replace Knuckles?
He's been in talks with popular fan artist Adamus, who's a French artist, and hopefully he'll get him on board. It's like
Okay, as someone who wants to see the project crash and burn,
Yeah.
I would disagree with that. But Animus is certainly a very good artist, and it will certainly at least restore my faith in Pender's sanity if he actually got someone who can do his crappy comics.
Well, Pender's is kind of like Ron Lim, where he can draw humans just fine. Although sometimes I noticed, I looked at his Star Trek work, and there'd be an eye that would...
Sonic characters have
there would be an eye that would be much lower to the relative to the other eye and stuff. But like he does like Superman artwork sometimes. It's actually really good. But his problem is he keeps trying to use this what do they call it? Something in burn style of art. Fade and burn or what have you.
Fade and burn. I think that's right.
He keeps trying to use this 3D style of art to his 2D artwork that just absolutely destroys it and makes it look horrible. I think even if he was drawing it itself, if he would just focus on 2D art, it would look a much better than what he's trying to go for. Especially he keeps focusing now on this horrible looking CGI, and the reason he does that is because he wants to be able to just take those CGI characters and repose them per panel for laziness. And that's another thing that's driving me nuts is the laziness on that man as far as his art. He keeps using stock footage. Even on the very first page, he's only done one page so far of this book that he's been working on for 5 years. And it's got at least 2 or 3 stock footage in the background, and including one that belongs to an Archie issue of Sonic 25 years later.
Now, I looked at that,
Future Knuckles.
I'm still not 100% sure if that was actually taken directly from a comic.
Yes, that was. The Future Knuckles, I can even show you which issue it was taken from.
Anyway, by the way, the Nocturne High Praetorian is an enemy that appears in Sonic Chronicles The Dark Brotherhood. So... yeah, I mean, not the same thing as what he's doing with it, but I do find it interesting that he is using a term.
According to him, I mean, Sonic Chronicles, I gotta agree with him, is pretty much a rip-off of his work from his days. I mean, you know, it's a futuristic Echidna clan that's been hiding in this dimension that's come out and everything. Plus, according to him, BioWare did contact him for information and for, you know, some perspective, and so I kind of agree on his side as far as Chronicles being a ripoff of his work. Plus, if they did contact him, then they are, you know, taking his ideas and then made a game out of it.
See, now I don't really see a big issue with that because he wrote for a licensed comic book that stars a video game character that was appearing in that game. So, I can't say I empathize at all.
Yeah, but I mean, if BioWare comes to you and gets ideas from you, don't you deserve at least a little credit and pay for that?
I don't know, not pay. He's not even working. He wasn't even working on the comic anymore at that point. Credit?
Well, no, but they were helping. But he was helping them with the game, according to him.
According to him, we don't actually know how much he helps.
Yeah,
and he I've heard from other creators that he is not necessarily the best person to work with, nor
it's just Chronicles
is the most reliable
thing
person.
Where I'm kind of on his side on, because even when I was playing this game, I'm like, this is just a ripoff of the Knuckles comic series.
Now, see, as a fan of his work on the Knuckles comic series, I thought it was pretty cool that they were kind of sort of working some of what he did into their game. I thought that was cool. I didn't think he was going to break a comic continuity over it. I thought it was...
I don't think that was the reason. I think what happened was when you got to Locke's second death in the comics, and that's the one thing I think Ian Wood didn't do that well on was Locke became a total jerk at that point, and then he was
always kind of a jerk.
I know, but I mean a major one where he's almost trying to kill his son to solve the problem of his son being Enerjack, and at the end he finally decides to sacrifice himself. But the problem is that the original Locke death story that Penders wrote was very personal to him because it was about his father's death with cancer. And it doesn't make exactly a compelling, story to read for kids. But still,
now that is something that I empathize with.
I can see where that's kind of a stab in the back for him. I can understand that.
That is something that I empathize with, but at the same time, that's why you maybe don't necessarily work personal stories into a licensed comic book that you have not created, and therefore you will not have complete control over.
Or make your wife and children characters in the comic as well.
Yeah, because he left the comic. He had no say, and will continue to have no say, over what happens in that comic. And that's just how it works. I'm sorry. And I never actually read that particular story. That's when I was kind of off and on with the Sonic comics. So I don't really have much of an opinion on how well it was done. But I rather liked Locke's story and Locke's death in the regular Sonic books, because there's this guy who's essentially been really kind of an asshole to his son for most of his life. And he kind of manages to redeem himself with this final act that saves his son, saves the world. It's not the kind of big climactic fight that normally punctuates the end of these stories, and it seemed like a rather nice end to his character. And this is after pretty much he has been through like in the comics before that, Locke had been through a lot of crap. I mean, he had to deal with his son essentially abandoning his post, abandoning his island, and there was a lot of bitterness between them after that, because Knuckles just felt that, I need it down here. I need to help the Freedom Fighters. I need to fight this fight, and so I don't blame Locke for being really kind of a big douche near the end. I don't remember all the specifics. I really don't remember you saying he was essentially going to kill his son, but I imagine that was probably in reaction to his son turning into Enerjack, due to Locke tampering with his genes when he was a freaking egg.
Well, yeah, even in the Penders stories, Locke saw his son less as a son than a petri dish.
And of course, now I do empathize with why Locke did that. He had this horrible dream of the world of, I forget if it was the world, it was something being destroyed, either the world or the island, and his son dying, which is why he did all those experiments, but that doesn't necessarily make it right.
I love the old meme, I had a bad dream, better microwave the baby.
That was one of the funnier ones to come out of that. But in the end, I don't really see what Ken Penders is really going to gain from all this, because from what we've seen in the comic, it doesn't look that good. I know it's not going to sell particularly well, especially since it doesn't even look like he's going to go the webcomic route, and so I don't know. I guess he's going to self-publish, but that's going to be a really hard nut to crack, especially when your cover art looks like his art. But in the end, as far as I can tell, he destroyed his legacy for essentially nothing. And as someone who was affected by his work in such a way when I was a kid, that's just heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking to me that Julie Sue, that Jeffrey St. John, that all these admittedly mostly sort of supporting and secondary characters that I really fell in love with as a kid are essentially, they've been banished from mainstream comics. No more kids are going to get to...
I never liked Jeffrey St. John to be much, to be honest.
I liked him as an asshole.
Plus, he was he's a guy in his mid-20s flirting with a girl who's 16.
His age was always a little ambiguous to me. But and now kids are no longer going to be exposed to his stuff. His stuff is no longer going to get any mainstream exposure. You're never going to see anything from his comics, from his work in a game again. You're never going to see anything like that. He has marginalized himself to this really small subset of fans on his forum who will hopefully, for his sake, buy his stuff. And to me, that's a really, really poor trade-off, provided he ever actually manages to get a comic out. Which I guess he's finding it to be far more difficult than he thought it would be, given that he has never.
So one thing he said that drove me nuts recently is they were mentioning the Archie Comics Kickstarter. They were trying to get more money from the fans because they were now they made a deal with I guess Target and Walmart to get some of the comics in there, and then Penders was mentioning, how come they were mentioning all these big name artists they were going to have on the Archie titles, not Sonic or Megaman or the license, just Archie. And Penders is all like, I'm surprised they never mentioned, Ian Flynn as a big name writer, because
he doesn't write for the Archie comics.
It's kind of a subtle way of saying, I guess they don't think much of him or something. I'm like,
that's why they've given him all of these different comic books.
I wrote back to him, the man's writing 4 books a month. He is for Archie,
He writes for bestsellers.
He's not only the number 1 licensed writer on there, he's the only licensed writer
he writes there. The biggest sellers that
doing
they,
it
that
consistently. Of course, Archie thinks highly.
If they didn't think highly of him, would they give him the sequel to one of their biggest comic book successes?
I'm just surprised they didn't give him a book on the regular Archie series.
Who cares about regular Archie? The reason why Archie is going through so much
he's a licensed writer. It's different. Plus, he's got a huge love for Sonic that he doesn't necessarily, he might not necessarily have for the regular Archie. Although he did a Sabrina book for quite a while, that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, but
I'd like to have a final say in all this once you're done.
But well, damn. Darn. Okay, trying to regather my thoughts. What? Damn it!
My thing is, can we just finally get over this? I mean, I read the Lore Soup Chronicles forum sometimes and SSMB, and all it is constantly complaining and that about Ken Penders, even when he's not really doing anything at the time to be criticized of, and every other episode of Sonic Talk, you're complaining about it. But I mean, yes, these characters are gone now, but it's been 5 years, and I just want to stop. I guess
you need to have one more rant because I've just finally read the books. This is as close to getting over it as I'm going to get, because
to me, that horse has been dead for quite a while.
I finally read these books. I'm finally going to start reading the Sonic books consistently again. This is as close as I'm going to get to that.
I understand why people are outraged, but personally myself, I've been wanting a reboot for a long time. I think the Sonic world that we had got way too cluttered with characters and got way too big in its own scope. And having us start anew, fresh with these new characters, and having the video games as the background for the past has improved the book rather than taken away from it.
I won't deny that. Yes, Ian Flynn has been able to work wonders with the reboot. These are some of the strongest stories I have read from him. But at the same time, the comic was cluttered and a mess way before he came on board, and he spent his first 2 years just cleaning it up. And finally, once he was done with that, the comic got really good. It was consistently good. He was working really well within that continuity. And so, in the end, yes, I have essentially gotten over it because I am reading the comic book now. But that does not, to me, I'm never going to, it's not like I'm ever going to let Penders off the hook. And it's not like I'm ever going to think that what he did wasn't really, really, really stupid. Just because, I've already explained a million times over, I hate reboots. And this was a completely unnecessary one. Not even necessary in terms of sales, but just because one writer felt like destroying this thing he spent 10 years of his life building for something that no one's going to read. And I guess my rant, or it was sort of a rant, you kept kind of counterpointing me in areas. But ranty enough, I guess. I guess my rant is more or less done. I'm probably mostly done with these long-winded rants about penders on the Sonic Talk. But if I do think I might be writing some op-eds on Sonic Stadium at some point, they'll be a bit more level-headed, not nearly as much cursing. So I think we're done here.
Okay, good, because it's like 12:30 and I have not had breakfast yet.
I'm glad I ate.
Yeah, I am just absolutely starving. Anyway, yeah, that's my rant on it. Is that I've gotten past it, and I can kind of understand where it's it's his characters. He wants at least get paid for their constant reuse and reprints, which is now dead. Partially thanks to him, we get digests and super specials where they're repeating the stories that have happened for the last 2 years.
I'm
since
not
the
sure
reboot.
if they're dead, because I was looking at the most recent reprints. They recently got past issue 100, and it was published in February of 2015.
Well, no, not the reprints as far as graphic novels. Sonic Saga series are still going. They're still doing those.
I'm talking about Sonic Archives.
Yeah, and Sonic Archives. I'm talking about digests and the super specials.
Oh, I don't care.
Digests and the super special magazines have been reprints have only been reprints since Worlds Collide ended from 252 on. That's all they're doing is reprinting from there, and occasionally they'll reprint a really old like Mike Gallagher story from the first 25 issues.
I still like Mike Gallagher. He did some
But
good
if they're
stuff.
doing a graphic novel, then they'll still take some of those old stories. But I guess they might have to still pay penders for that. But I guess if it's going to be a graphic novel, maybe it's worth it to them or something. But at the same time, he preaches about creators' rights while stealing, like Knuckles, trying to steal Knuckles away.
Again, that doesn't really. You mean stealing the art or the character?
Well, I mean,
himself?
the character himself.
Okay,
he's trying to copy his original
bullshit.
character Do Not Steal version of Knuckles.
Isn't that like half of the characters he created? No, I'm not. To be fair, I'm not really giving the characters.
I'm starting to rant again, and like I said, I'm pretty much over it. I don't really want to complain about Ken Penders anymore. I'm out of steam. I think the dead horse has been beaten enough.
I specifically need to complain one last time because I read the comics, and because this is when finally all of the effects of these changes hit me. This is when I finally saw the Chaotix and Knuckles interact with each other. When I finally saw all the characters are just inexplicably missing. All of the family members who are just essentially they've ceased to exist. They're dead.
Yeah.
And so this is where it's finally really kind of hit me that okay, this is the new status quo for this comic book I've been reading since I was 8.
And Uncle Chuck, who's no longer his uncle, but that has nothing to do with Penders. That was a Sega mandate.
Yeah, but it's probably indirectly due to Penders.
I don't think so.
But yeah, this is as close as I'm going to get, man. I'm sorry. So I guess the main difference between us is that you read the comics in like your 20s, and I
read them off and on because I didn't start reading them fully until my 20s. So because I was really shy, but when my brother was picking up kids comics like the Donald Duck series, I finally decided it's stupid for me to be acting like this and being embarrassed over picking up a Sonic comic, and just started reading them and then read the back issues from there.
Wait, were you not 20 years old in the 90s?
Well, yeah, I was 20 years old in the 90s, but
okay, that's when the comics ran.
Yeah,
they started running in 94.
I was oh dang it, you're right. I forget how old I am sometimes.
I guess it's because I was
I started in my late 20s on him. I mean, I didn't start until
this was for me the Sonic
after he
comics
came back from outer space, I think is when I started reading them.
But for me, the Sonic comics were my first comics. These were the first things I ever read.
At first, I was too shy to read them because I would see these epic Patrick Spasnati covers and would really want to get into them. And then I'd open it up, and it would be Art Mawhinney's very cutesy baby chipmunk art. And then I realized, oh no, this is a comic for little children. I better put it back.
Yeah, children like me. But the main difference between us is that, like, as a kid, I guess it just affected me in a completely different way from you.
I've learned in life that if you don't give a crap, you'll be much happier in life, and just enjoy what you like and not.
I am a very passionate person. You cannot censor me.
Not give a dang what other people think of you. That's one problem. Because I've always been very shy. That's what affected me from reading the books for a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm way past that.
Anyway, I'm going to let you go eat. So, and I'm going to let our listeners stop listening to us, and they can start listening to the Ian Flynn interview.
Blue streak speeds by. Sonic the Hedgehog, too fast for the naked eye. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. Look out when he storms through. Sonic the Hedgehog, don't doubt what he can do. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive.
Start this up in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the interview section of this show. We've got a very special guest who's on his new press junket for the Worlds Unite crossover event, Mr. Ian Flynn.
Howdy, howdy.
All right.
Hey, Mr. It's been a while.
It has.
Yeah, about, I think, like 1.5 years since the last one, I believe.
Yeah, we've all been pretty busy, unfortunately. You especially.
Busy is good.
Yeah.
Alrighty, now before we...
coming out.
But before we get into Worlds Unite, I'd like to talk about a little bit about the aftermath from the Worlds Collide arc. Now, it's been called the World Adventure. It's kind of a loose adaptation of the Sonic Unleashed, and which, of course, was called the Sonic World Adventure in Japan. Some people have been a little critical about, on certain forums, on the adaptation of Sonic Unleashed as not being that faithful to the original material, but is the World Adventure storyline more of a way to introduce everyone to this new Sonic world rather than a true one-to-one adaptation?
Right. Coming out of Worlds Collide, due to circumstances well beyond my control, we had to reestablish the primary cast and the world without a whole lot of time to build up towards it. So with the Shattered World Crisis story, using Sonic Unleashed as kind of a backdrop gave us an opportunity to explore the new world and the new characters in a way that was also kind of building towards the greater Sonic mythos. Because with the new continuity, most of the games have already happened in the timeline. So with Unleashed, we were able to address it. It has an overarching peril throughout that the heroes can be working towards, but still have smaller stories interspersed throughout. Some of the criticisms I've seen seem to be under the impression that once that this story arc is over, we're going to be returning to some kind of status quo, and that the delay and how long we've been taking with the story is putting off getting back to that point. And there really isn't a status quo to get back to, Once this arc is over, we're moving on to new stories, and it's, all new material from here on out. Now, those who are worried that we're taking too long with it, that I can kind of understand in general, and it's something I have in mind with the post-Worlds Unite story breakdowns that I've got set up.
I'll just go to the second part of the sentence.
Out of all the new characters you've introduced, do you have a favorite?
Oh, goodness. See, this is always a loaded question, because if I say, oh, I kind of like X, then it's going to be, oh my god, Ian Flynn showing favoritism, and this is going to be the new Sonic Universe arc, and he's got his own personal waifus, and blah, 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 blah.
I forgot people were like that. I haven't been back for a while.
It's 10 years. You think I'd be used to it by now. But, I don't know. I really enjoy all the characters we've introduced so far, because we made a concentrated effort to make the extended universe feel like part of the Sonic mythos, instead of, here is my random character, also he's with Sonic. I really like how we've managed to get Relic to play off of Knuckles. They're a very fun duo. I'm really happy how well Eclipse has been accepted by most of the readers, because, the alien half-brother clone of Shadow is a really hard sell. You could do that really wrong really fast. And I think we managed to navigate that and create a character that people can appreciate and enjoy. The Fishmobians, overall, I think have been a great success. Razor's popularity kind of took me by surprise, but hey, if people like him, that's cool by me. And,
you've always liked the bad boy.
And, it always helps to have someone like Jen Hernandez do the art for it, because she's just amazing.
Yeah. I like the design on that princess, where she's got an umbrella that actually rains on her, so she can just travel outside world. That's a clever design bit there.
Oh, so that's who that was. Okay.
Is it? Is it? Now that we've confirmed anything.
I don't know. I actually pretty much read the entirety of what you've written for this comic book since the last Worlds Collide crossover in the last 3 days. So I'm still like 1 or 2 issues behind, I think. But I'm pretty much
there.
That's
a lot to process.
He's a little behind for the interview.
I had some. I always have difficulties getting into comics when they reboot, but once I finally got into it, you made it very easy. Those are some good comics.
Good. Another convert.
Yeah, I'm not easy when it comes to reboots.
Also, I apologize if I sound a little croaky on this end. Spring has sprung, and I have very mild allergies.
That's fine. My voice is way more annoying, I'm sure.
Now, this is a little bit of criticism one, I guess. In an interview I did with you back at San Diego Comic-Con about 2 years ago, you said that this wasn't like a true reboot, and that Archie wouldn't be, getting rid or throwing out of 20 years of Sonic comic history. But with even the main characters slowly forgetting the past, wouldn't you consider this a true reboot, or a new 252, if you will?
First off, just pet peeve, I hate the term New 252, just because it brings connotations with DC's New 52, and it's like, no, it's not like that, please.
It's better for one. That's what cost me.
2 years ago, my understanding of the situation leading into the changes was different. What I was told was going to happen, what I was told how things were going, was very different, and there was also a certain degree of, I was told, this is how you ought to spin it, just so people don't absolutely panic. And with the slow transition from the old memories to new memories, that was the rationalization at the time of why it wasn't a full-on reboot. Personally, I think it's better to be just direct and clean cut. It is a reboot. We have rebooted the book. I don't think the characters should have had the old memories to begin with. I pushed really hard for them to just be the new characters, just dive into the new direction, and it would make people mad, of course, completely understandable. But to me, I think it's better to just get it over with and move forward than to try to ease it in. It's like jumping into a cold pool. If you go, toe by toe, it's going to be torturous. Just jump right in, get it over with, and then enjoy yourself swimming around. So it's one of those things where it's me putting myself on the firing line. I go out and do a lot of this pro bono PR stuff, but I am not the one making the decisions, and I'm kind of limited in what I can say sometimes. So if folks feel like I misdirected them on purpose, I apologize. That was not my intention. I just knew that losing a lot of the old material would be very upsetting to some people, and I didn't want them to not give the new direction a chance simply because of their understandable anger over losing the old material.
Was there any discussion about starting it as a Sonic #1 at all?
Very, very briefly, I think, but we made it this far. I think the decision was to keep it with the current numbering, and I think it was something like there's some weird rigmarole with starting a new #1. Like I don't know. It's not my department, but starting it as a new #1 would have caused a lot of really weird and problematic paperwork. So it's just like, call it 252, move forward.
Well, I'm really glad for that, because in just a few months now, Sonic is going to surpass Conan as the longest-running numbered licensed comic book.
I think that was probably a factor in the consideration as well.
Yes!
Yeah, I was confused. One thing that confuses me about that, what about the Walt Disney Comics and Stories? Wouldn't they count as a license? I was going to say, aren't the Walt Disney Comics and Stories a lot longer numbered than Conan or Sonic?
I think the Guinness Book of World Records had something to do with consistently running, and the Disney Comics pretty much just kept stopping for a while.
Oh, okay.
So continuously running.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Disney books, when you run for a while and then go on hiatus for a few years and then pick up where the numbering left off, whereas Conan and Sonic have been monthly, non-stop.
That's true, and we couldn't tell that in the U.S. because they're usually the Disney comics originate in Europe or Italy or stuff, so they could be done with for years and we'd still be catching up. That's kind of true. Okay, Alex, skip the next question, the one you gave me, because we're not allowed to talk really about that. Start with the adventures. Well,
it's not that we're not allowed to. It's just that we won't get an answer, so might as well not waste time. It's great to see some adventure characters making it back into the comics, such as Breezy, whom I thought she looked familiar. Okay, so she was from Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
Yes, she was.
As well as Wes Weasley and Von Schlemmer. Oh, that was Wes Weasley. Okay. Ha! My Sonic knowledge has not failed me. Since these characters from Deke are allowed, what happened to the Sonic Underground one-shot now? Yeah, I'm wondering about that.
Sonic Underground is one of those things where I have to be very careful what I say about it. Suffice to say, we were all set to do the finale. Okay. So, Sonic Underground ended on a giant cliffhanger. Nothing was resolved. The Sonic and his siblings were still looking for their mother. Queen Elena was still out there. Nothing had really ever moved forward in that regard. So, since we've done a lot of service towards Sat AM and Adventures of, I wanted to give the Underground fans a little something, and had written a standalone issue that would have acted as the finale to Sonic Underground. Give them some closure after all these years. It wouldn't be official, of course, because it's the comic, but it's something that if they liked it, they could accept it, and if they didn't like it, they could just say, oh, it's the comic, never mind. We had things approved, we had cover art done, we had solicitations, and then for reasons that just make me so very frustrated, we had to abandon ship at the last possible second.
Ugh.
And it's a lot more complicated and outright terrifying in some regards than I can get into, but suffice to say, we're probably never going to be able to touch that underground story.
Oh, man.
I do plan on publishing the basics of it in Lost Hedgehog Tales when I eventually finish that. But yeah, you can pretty much count that out, and don't look for a ton of more Deke material going forward.
Oh.
Were there any adventures characters that Sega would not allow back?
None that immediately spring to mind.
Mama Robotnik?
No, I personally will never let that onto the book. No.
We've heard that before. We know how influential dubs can be.
All right.
Speaking of Sonic and Disney and dubs, John Gray is now assistant editor on the Sonic books and Megaman, and he is also doing cover art and localization for the which publisher is it who's doing the Disney books now?
IDW.
IDW, yeah.
There we go.
Yep,
Yeah, so he's doing that for the IDW Disney books. So good for John.
Yeah, I've been following that. I'm real happy for him because I know he's a big Disney fan.
Oh, if you ever get a chance to talk to him at length, ask him anything about anything in animation, and he'll basically start a college professor's lecture on the history of that one aspect of animation. The man is just an absolute fount of knowledge. It's amazing.
Ooh, okay. Next time we're at a convention together, I'm getting my camera. Okay, so regarding Sonic Boom, have you been keeping up with all the episodes that aired?
I've fallen behind a little bit, but when we got the comic, they gave us a metric ton of the screenplays. So I've read ahead on a lot of stuff, actually.
Huh.
Okay, that's
it's also kind of interesting because some of the scripts we had were, I guess, early production scripts, and that things had to change down the line because, a script that I assumed would have been coming out a lot earlier, the episode hasn't aired yet, or things have changed between the script and the final form. It's interesting to look at the process from that angle.
Yeah, I did an interview with Bill Freiberger on my last Sonic Boomcast, and he said the scripts are kind of out of order on as they appear per episode. So some episodes that were like near the tail end of the first season have already aired.
Yeah, Cartoon Network tends to do that with loads of their shows.
Of course, Sonic Boom is such a continuity light series. You don't really have to worry about that. It's anything can air at any point.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a situation comedy kind of thing.
I don't know. I think we need to know the origin of the McDonald's beaver guy, right? We need to know.
Dave the intern.
Yeah, that guy.
What has been your favorite episode so far?
See, this is I got to tread carefully too because I'm not quite sure what has aired and what I've read.
Maybe I should have kept out the favorite lines.
The one that immediately springs to mind is the one with the flying Mecha Doom cow. Just because they're chilling out under the protective force field, and just in the distance you see the big old counts. Moo. And I don't know, maybe I'm a simple-minded individual, but that just cracks me up. Just this harbinger of doom and destruction off in the distance.
It just takes forever to get there.
and what's your least favorite thing about them so far?
I don't know about least favorite, but most challenging, I guess, is finding the right voice for Amy Rose. Because this incarnation seems to be not as clearly defined, I guess, as Sega Sonic Amy. Sega Sonic Amy is, crazy fangirl. That's easy enough to sum up.
She's the glumper.
The Boom Amy, sometimes she's kind of sarcastic, sometimes she's overly supportive and thoughtful. Sometimes she just can't stand Knuckles. Sometimes she's the one keeping everyone in line. Sometimes she's a bit bossy. Sometimes she's just one of the guys. I don't know. It's kind of hard to nail down exactly where to go with her.
Yeah, I think, like at the very beginning of the series and the Rise of Lyric, it seems like Rise of Lyric Amy is quite a different character from the cartoon. They kind of mesh a little bit. She's more adventurous and more of a leader, Sally-like, where on the show she's can be kind of more of a homebody, more of a, I wouldn't say girly girl, but she's like very into like decorating and being more of a caring, soul.
Well, really, there are many things about Sonic Boom, the game, that were different. Like, it has Shadow the Hedgehog for one. It's a more serious story.
Oh yeah, I noticed in certain areas they had like Tails sound kind of like the professor from Gilligan's Island, where he's like, "I theorize that blah blah blah," and that's not how he sounds in the show at all. Well, okay, that one question you answered earlier answered the other question. Which has been harder for you in terms of writing? Was doing the main books with the action adventure style, or the kids comedy style of like Sonic X or Sonic Boom?
They both have their challenges. Comedy is always much harder to write than drama, and in part because what's funny to me is not going to be funny to everybody else. What I think is absolutely hilarious dry humor is falls flat for a lot of other people. And there's been some areas where it's almost kind of off-putting how over-analytical and critical folks are being of this series. It's like, I don't believe that this joke actually works on this particular metaphysical level because... and it's like, guys, you're overthinking it. It's goofy. It's just supposed to be silly funny, and if you don't find that funny, sure, that's fine. But this isn't Sad AM. This isn't the comics. This is just Sonic and Eggman eat marshmallows while a giant boom cow flies in. It's relax a little bit. Just kind of sit back and enjoy the ride. But it's also, writing Boom is kind of cathartic, because with regular Sonic, I've got to figure out how the regular comic and universe are going to knit together, and how their stories are going to support each other. What's the long-term goal in terms of the storyline? What is the continuity? Can I do this? Have I already done that? Is this in conflict with anything? With Worlds Unite, it's, how do I fold this into the main story, and how do I get out of it, yada, yada, yada. With Boom, it's like, okay, and they drive go-karts. Evil go-karts. And, you're done. That's it. You're good. That's all you have to worry about.
Though even with Sonic Boom, you managed to very loosely kind of tie at least the first 4 issues together.
Well, I mean, these are obviously going to trade very quickly, and with the comic books in particular, you can't have. Yeah, all right. So with the cartoon, he said, babbling like a madman. You have a new episode every week, more or less. So that the audience will keep coming back because they will get the content more regularly. With the comic, there's a month in between each break, and especially with a comedic comic where it's kind of a joke in and of itself, you want them to have a reason to come back next month other than, oh, I might laugh again. So having something of a light story arc throughout gives the reader more incentive to pick it up, because you have a little bit of story to follow, and hopefully you were entertained the first time, so you'll be entertained the second time.
Yeah, the one thing I liked about the Big Boy arc is I like to call it, Eggman actually kept going back and refining his one robot, where normally he'd give up and quit and start anew, which is really what a scientist would do. A scientist, if something fails off real science, you go back and you try it again, and try to fix what went wrong the first time. And so by the time the 4th issue came, Big Boy was just unstoppable, except for one small rock.
Not just any rock, the Rock of Destiny.
That was that I loved that ending to that. Just the littlest twist, because you're starting to wonder whether Styx is actually crazy or not, and sure enough, when everyone starts to believe that this is an actual living rock, at the very end she just throws it into that pile of other rocks of destinies, and you realize, yeah, she's pretty much crazy.
And I love that, in that pile there's just a random 8-ball. At one point the Rock of Destiny was, things look promising, shake, shake, shake.
Right.
See, that's the beauty of Sonic Boom, is you can do absolute nonsense like that and move on. You don't have to worry about, how many rocks were in the pile if we ever come back to a Rock of Destiny storyline. There were rocks. They were of destiny. And we're done. We're good.
And then you can have people on the internet analyze it on a metaphysical level.
And you know what? If that makes them happy, go for it.
So you've been loading the regular Sonic books with original characters lately, but will you be allowed to do the same for Sonic Boom?
That is an excellent question. I'm not as inclined to do that with Boom, just because the show has a large number of extra characters as it is, and you can get a lot of mileage out of the cast as it's presented. If the book were to go on for, the same length as Universe, then I might consider it, but for now I think we're just going to keep it close to the show. That said, there's a guest writer from the actual show who's introducing a new character, but that's not me.
Alrighty. Let's go on to recent issues like Champions. So I gotta say, I absolutely loved Champions.
That was funny.
Just a funny, action-packed read with plenty of fan service as far as past Sonic games. I mean, there are so many niche Sonic game references that they are hard to count. Is there any game references that might have flown over fans' heads?
A huge amount of props goes to Diana Skelly for her debut arc, and she put in stuff that, when I write up the scripts, I try to put in, Easter eggs I'd like to see in there. She did all of that and then some. She just blew it out of the water. Oh, it was such a great arc. I know that if you look in Breezy's office and the various paintings on the walls,
oh yeah,
those are all references to classical paintings, many of which that either I didn't know off the top of my head or I can't remember the name of now. But these really, really smart references throughout, and it's going to fly over the heads of most people.
Yeah, there was this one. Sorry, go on.
And there was one instance where, in the background, you can see Wintos from Sonic Unleashed arguing with Wes Weasley. And I had to laugh because I was, in the next part, I had Wes Weasley actually showing up in an extended cameo. So, when I saw the early pencils, I contacted her and said, "This is brilliant. I already have Wes showing up. Let's go ahead and nail down the design I was going to be introducing later on." And we got that going from there. So I'm sure it's been so long since I've looked at it, since you folks are just now starting to get into Worlds Unite. I'm already working on post crossover material, so it's been so long since I've looked at Champions, it's hard to remember. But everything in there was just a delight.
I would have to go back to that and check for that stuff, because I guess I missed the extra Wintos little cameo there. I saw the one, but I didn't see the second one.
I missed the Wentos, but I did notice the painting of the. That was pretty much the eagle ripping out the guts of Prometheus.
Yep, that's one of them.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's an interesting looking painting there.
Have you seen? Speaking of Diana Skelly, have you seen her concept art she did of complete redesigns of all the characters? She had Amy Rose as a kind of a flapper girl, and Shadow as this really dark, completely different character.
Yeah. Those were all kind of neat. There's no way Sega would let any of that
Oh,
fly.
no,
But, you know, as a artistic exercise, they were really cool.
So will she be doing another story arc soon?
I know she's doing some stuff in Boom after the crossover, and after that, I'm not entirely sure. I do know that I would be happy with her drawing just about anything that I write.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you want to take the next question, Alex?
Yeah. How dangerous would Bean be if he took his fights more seriously? Because really, like when he was fighting, damn it, there's this
SBO.
one, yeah, SBO. That was a surprisingly devious little tactic he used, and he seemed to know exactly what he was doing, which is not what I would expect from him.
Well, that scene in particular is direct evidence that I do read criticism, because people were getting kind of tired of Bean's one note. Oh, here's the wacky, random, nonsense guy, and I realized that I was starting to write him into that corner. So with that fight in particular, and actually with any of his actions throughout the arc, I wanted to get back to why would Knack even bother with this oddball? So giving him those little moments of competency reminds you that he actually is a viable character. He isn't just a one-note goofus. As for how powerful he is overall, I'll leave that up to your imagination.
Ooh, oh my.
The reset 272 is very action-packed while telling a really tight-knit narrative within one issue, and being a pretty strong Unleashed adaptation as well. We were speaking of little game nods earlier. Is the Gaia Gates a nod to the Wii version of Sonic Unleashed?
Yeah. With the whole Unleashed adaptation, what I wanted to do was try to pay a little bit of lip service to both versions of the game, because the PS3 360 version, in terms of overall structure and in some of the story elements, is very, very different from the PS2 Wii version. So, you know, not everyone's going to have played both games. Not everyone is as obsessive over the little blue hedgehog as I. So, I wanted to be able to do a little bit of both. And with the way that the post-crossover stories will be structured, the Wii PS2 version actually provided a better way of getting through the material.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, like that issue, that was a great Sonic and Antoine issue as far as their camaraderie and that. But there is a fairly violent scene where Anton jams that sword pretty hard into the Dark Gaia monster's chest. How are you able to get past censorship for such a gruesome-looking shot?
Well, I mean, it's a giant goo monster. It's kind of like how if you're fighting robots, you can dismember and decapitate and mutilate them because they're robots. They're not real people.
Because it's kind of like, I guess because of they're not quite alive. I mean, they disappear into purple mist when daylight hits. It's kind of like that.
Mean, sure, they're kind of veiny and kind of gooey, but in the end, they're mindless, inhuman things. They're not, people.
Right.
You're never going to see Antoine pull the same thing on, like, Eggman or something.
Alrighty. Now let's get into Worlds Unite. Can you tell us... I'm sorry, you go ahead, Alex.
So, could you tell us, for anyone who somehow doesn't know, what is Worlds Unite about?
Worlds Unite is the sequel to Worlds Collide. Worlds Collide was the big crossover between Sonic and Megaman, which was very Sega Sonic in its construction. So you only had game characters on Sonic's side, and the whole thing was Dr. Eggman and Dr. Wily team up, create their own pocket dimension, and try to rewrite their own realities to better reflect their personal desires. Worlds Unite is what happens when you say, okay, Ian, you did everything you wanted the first time, now make it better. It's Sonic and Mega Man crossover again. This time we've got characters from Mega Man X and Sonic Boom joining in. We've got the comic cast joining in this time because folks missed them last time around. And the big, what would have been a surprise, but we're kind of let that cat out of the bag, is that the grand finale involves a huge crossover between multiple properties from both Sega and Capcom, with the big bad being Sigma from Mega Man X.
How long was this one in the planning?
As a concept, it pretty much was on the table the minute the sales numbers for Worlds Collide came in, because all the books almost doubled in sales. So it's like, hey, this made boatloads of money. Let's do that again. There were a number of behind-the-scenes factors that contributed to the way that it came out. And the actual structure, the plotting of the story, I guess was being worked on while I was working on rebooting the series with the beginning of the Shattered World saga. So this has been in development for a bit. It's been through a lot of tweaks and changes and whatnot, but in the end, I think it's one of those things where you sit back and just enjoy the spectacle.
So when this was first announced, I really thought that this was coming a little too quickly after the last one, that I wasn't really sure how you were going to top the first one, especially coming so soon after it. But now, of course, as you said, yes, we have loads of other franchise characters crossing over. Was this always planned, or was it initially just going to be Sonic and Mega Man stuff?
Again, I can agree and I can disagree with it coming too early. It was a full year after the other one, if not 2. I'm bad with numbers. But the point is, it wasn't like it was right immediately after the other one. Of course, I would have liked more time to explore the main stories, but at the same time, you've got to strike while the iron's hot. There was still a little bit of hype off of Worlds Collide, so you need to jump on that as it is. And I've lost my train of thought. There was other... the other franchises were in negotiations when we started moving forward with the plot. So the third act is where everything happens, because I wasn't sure if I had to write them out or not. But thankfully, everything got approved. Things went very smoothly, at least on my end. And we've got, just an absolute cavalcade of characters showing up.
So, of all the franchises that we are aware of from the covers, do you have any favorites you want to give some shout-outs to?
Oh, Skies of Arcadia, obviously.
Obviously, Air Pilot.
The minute that came on the table, it's like, okay, we're going to put that one in there. It's like, but it only had one game. We're putting Skies of Arcadia into the crossover. Thank you. Obviously, if Overworks had said, no, you can't, we wouldn't have put it in there. I would have cried very deeply on the inside. But, no, they were very, very... All of the property holders were very cool with the way we were doing things.
I'm crossing my fingers for some major Skies of Arcadia stuff in there. Not expecting it, just crossing my fingers.
Well, I mean, as much as I love the series and wanted it to appear, I also tried very hard to make sure that I didn't make it the Skies of Arcadia comic guest starring Sonic and Mega Man. So they have their little moments, but the story is Sonic and Mega Man and X doing their thing and saving the day. Again, it's been so long since I've worked on it because I've moved on, but I don't know, all of them are exciting because some of them are series that I grew up with, some of them are series that I have known about and appreciate as franchises. Some I didn't know as much as I thought I did until I started doing the research. But the opportunity to play with all these characters and bring them into this bizarre little situation was just a lot of fun.
Well, Styx has been featured prominently on the covers and promotional material, but no other Boom characters have been shown. Will she be the only Boom character to make it into this crossover?
No, we'll be seeing other Sonic Boom characters.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So, So this is the question I've been hearing a lot. It's a very legitimate question. It's a very important question. Will Styx meet her human doppelganger Ica from Skies of Arcadia?
Well, that would be spoiling the surprise, now wouldn't it?
Okay, from our own Segabits Cory Maru, will there be more surprising Sega and Capcom franchises represented in the Epic crossover than the ones that were announced?
No, what we've already shown off all the franchises that are going to be showing up.
So,
Now, who shows up from those franchises might surprise you, because not everyone has been featured on the covers, but...
Actually, you know what? He's already answered this one question, Alex.
yeah, I didn't see that when I asked it.
Yeah,
so.
I did another favorites one, I guess. Did you have anything you'd like to promote before we wrap up?
Well, another project that I've got going right now is called Raiders of the Abyss. It's based on all right, cut all that. We're going to start over. Boop. The project that I'm working on right now is called Raiders of the Abyss. It's supposed to be a monthly sci-fi story, and the gimmick of it is folks who support it on Patreon get to decide how the story moves forward. Right now, the first chapter is out online for free, and those who sign up get to decide what the main character chooses to do with her group of space pirates. There's a big war on the horizon, and the choices are, which side to support or to kind of go off on your own. And these aren't, minor changes like, okay, this will change a line of dialogue here or there. These really will change out how I plot the story. So there's still loads of time to hop on the bandwagon. We need a lot of support. The website is patreon.com/Ian Flynn BKC. Again, first chapter is up for free. I'm working on a preview for chapter 2 to hopefully get a few more people interested. And if you ever wanted a chance to tell me how to write, this is the closest you're ever really going to get.
Well, nonsense. We can just yell at you on your forums.
Yes, because that works so well.
At bumbleking.com.
Yes, that is the website.
Well,
So, I have one more question regarding your cons this year. Could you tell us what Comic Cons you're going to?
Currently planned is Heroes Con, which is in the middle of June, and New York Comic Con, which is in October.
All right. So, are you still not sure about SDCC, or is that a no now?
Definitely can't make it to San Diego this year unless I win the lottery tomorrow. And New York might be a little sketchy. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
Do you know what's happening with Sylvana right now?
I know that I wrote the scripts. Dawn Best is working on it, but she, in the course of a month, moved to a new house, had her first child, and lost her mother to cancer. So she's been a little preoccupied with other things.
I can imagine,
but
yeah.
I know that she's still working on it, and she'll get it done.
Yeah, God bless her. I hope everything goes well for her.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and I think that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for being on the show, Ian. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, it
Always
was
a
nice
pleasure.
talking to you again, Mr. Flynn.
Likewise.